to the first episode. I'm with two of my best friends, two of my lifelong best friends who are just passionate about Star Wars, who just live and breathe it. This is our first ever episode about talking about Star Wars. Granted, we know that there's a lot of content out there on YouTube, and we're just doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for the love of Star Wars. We're doing this for just the way to connect to each other when, we're always so busy nowadays where it's hard to find time for your friends. So this is the reason why we're doing this. And the premise of the show is pretty much we are watching everything that Disney and Star Wars has right now, and we're doing it in timeline order from Tales of the Jedi all the way to the Mandalorian to the sequel trilogy. And we know things are still coming up, but we're going to do this once in the weekly. And hopefully, if you look into it and you think you like it, then, just leave a comment and be like, hey, you know what? Just keep doing your thing and we'll keep putting out content each week. If you want more, then we'll work that out as time goes on. That being said, I want to introduce you to my two friends. On the top screen to my left is Mr. Ryan.
Hello?
To the bottom is the Jedi Temple, a training facility, looks like, is Mr. Mike. And the editor behind here I'm Mr. Tom. And welcome to our first channel. So, fellas, say hello.
Hello there.
So
we did watch the first episode of Tales of the Jedi, season 1, episode 1, Life and Death, which it's a little foggy chronologically, I realize, if this technically takes place before the other Tales of the Jedi or after. Not really sure on the ages there, but we started with this one, which I think is a good one to start with, I gotta say. We got a lot to talk about with this one. It was a good episode.
I loved it because it was very simple. I love the whole idea that Ahsoka comes from a tribe. It gave me a feeling, like nostalgic feeling, when I like talk about video games, and I think one game I think about is Assassin's Creed 3, about the whole Native American tribe and stuff like that, hunting to kill your kill and stuff like that. I thought this episode was very it was just it was awesome in a way because it had nothing to do with lightsabers. It had nothing to do with what's been going on that we know of, from the movie's perspective.
No politics, basically.
Exactly.
It's just it's about, I did really like how it ends with, Ahsoka's a Jedi.
Yeah.
It brings in wow, this is really, besides what comes in Phantom, and I guess technically in A New Hope, it's one of the only few, and I guess Rebels, but one of the only few Jedi origin stories we get, right? Where you're really kind of seeing when they get identified as a Jedi. And I could be wrong. We'll watch some more and maybe I'll find some other ones, but all I can really think of is, Anakin, Luke, Rey. And then obviously Rebels, you get Ezra. So it's cool to kind of see that, but I don't think many get that first inkling of the Force appearing. So
yeah, no, I agree. And I think that and then also we'll just throw in Kanan with the Bad Batch, since you kind of see how he what Order 66 was like for him and why he has that distrust for clones when they run into Rex and the gang in Rebels. But I think Yeah, to your guys' point, I mean, it definitely is like one of the first origins of a Jedi. Because like one of the things, just so like from reading like the prior canon of like books and stuff, like Jedi are typically taken at a young age, and you wouldn't really expect them to like remember their parents, their family, where they came from. And to what Tom said too, I think it was a good origin story for Ahsoka, and you kind of see like those tribes and traditions because you see like the mom who's like, trying to teach her the ways, and the dad's like calling it different things, and then you have the elder of the group who's also like instilling those traditions as to Ahsoka at the early age and like giving them the marks right before they go out and hunt.
You know what it
Yeah,
is for me is we're talking about like when we see it in the Clone Wars where they've shown episodes of younglings or when people they get indoctrinated to the Jedi Order, we only see them when they're young Force users, but they're not being, but they show no Force abilities. This is, I think, the first time we actually see a foundling, or not a foundling, pretty much a youngling who shows strong connection to the Force and
yeah,
uses it. And we finally saw that for the first time with Ahsoka.
yeah.
Yeah,
When I mean, she tames the I believe
You
it's
want
a
me to look it up,
Raksha.
boss?
I believe it's a Raksha.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely to Tom's point. It's a different thing because when you see younglings, they're like sparring against training droids that with low powered blasters and learning basic deflection. You don't really see like that real world application of when a foundling discovers their ability with the Force. And just going back to what I said earlier too, is just like she kind of learned some of those Jedi traditions even before she became a Jedi. Because one of the things that you know one of the things that Yoda says, like death is a natural part of life, and you kind of hear a little bit about that when either right before she kills the prey or like right afterwards that this has to happen, and that's something that she learned even before she got recognized.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
think
I have a Google update.
Ahsoka's. Oh, yep.
Ryan, you're absolutely right. It's a fracture.
I
Yeah,
cheated. I turned on subtitles, which I highly recommend, because you get a lot of the names and stuff. So I know Ahsoka's mother's
Look
name
at this, folks.
is
I'm the editor.
Pavti.
I'm supposed to look stuff up, and he's just cheating right there. He's just cheating on me, man.
I recommend with the future rewatches subtitles because you learn so much. So Ahsoka's mother's name
That's true.
is Pavti. And Mike, what you were saying, I actually jotted it down while watching it because it did exactly what you just said. It resonated. And the quote was, she says, "You must face death, Ahsoka. Do not fear it." So that, and then there was another quote early on to Ahsoka when they're walking through like the woods of the planet, which is Shili. Um, Pronunciation might be wrong there. But she says, "Everywhere there is life, value it and honor it." So it's like she's from a tribe that already, whether they know it or not, I definitely think they're very much, well, everything's a part of the Force, but they're definitely very Force sensitive. You also have that other moment where the elder hears the gunshot and says a little prayer to herself and to Grudy. And then when the Ahsoka's mother Pavti comes upon the Kaibuk and goes to finish it off with the knife, she says the exact same prayer. So obviously, they're, as you said in the beginning, Tom, they're honoring the kill. And like she said, there's life everywhere. You need to value it, which they are because they need the food, and you need to honor it. And that was pretty interesting. I wanted to deflect from because I feel like we talked about the Force a little bit. I wanted to point out the two other things that we haven't talked about that stuck out. One, weapons. So did anyone catch what weapon? There was only one weapon featured in this entire episode.
There was truly only one weapon that we saw.
Like a hunting rifle.
like a cycler rifle, yeah. Just and that's the only thing I could think of from like the Battlefront games. It kind of reminds me of that design a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a little different from what the Tusken Raiders would use, but yeah, they only had one rifle.
Tom, I don't know if you could do a.
if we're calling balls and strikes, there was a knife, but only
You're right. You're right. There was a knife, so there were two. There were two.
Okay.
Now, Tom, can you maybe get us the name of what that rifle was that was
of
featured?
course.
And now while he's doing that, did anyone catch the droid?
I saw that on the roof.
A little roofer droid, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we got that droid's name. I didn't see it with the subtitles or anything. I don't know if it's got a name.
Let me look up the rifle first.
But those were the two other things. The species, I mean, so we had Ahsoka's race, which are the Togruta.
Togruta, yeah, that sounds good.
And then we had the Rakshir, the Kaibuck. Then we also had, which I don't know the names of, those in the beginning, they looked like cats, but like bears because their ears were round.
I thought they were like little mixtures of like panda, pugs, dog type of
something going on
I would
there.
They're like a variant of the Loth cat, I think.
I was gonna say they reminded me of
That's the only thing that really jumped out to me the most with those creatures.
And then we also had a red squirrel with little white dots on its forehead that was running through the woods. And again, probably not a squirrel, but so we had a lot of interesting obviously the more sentient beings, I guess, or intelligent, being the Ahsoka's tribe. But then we had a lot of animal life, a lot of what was it, fauna? Flora and fauna. So and I know we're gonna get a lot more of that in the rest of the animated series because they really go over with it. But yeah, for the weaponry, I mean, yeah, it was a solid hunting rifle. I mean,
so I'm looking up the rifle right now, and it did catch my reference, and I believe that Sam Wessel used a rifle like that in Attack of the Clones.
Oh,
and I believe it is a Keister 1284 projectile rifle.
Okay.
That's what I have right there because I looked it up before. I also got one that was called a lightsaber rifle.
So yeah, because that was part of the whole Darth Vader, like Jocasta Nu canon, but that's probably like more later down the road when we get into like Order 66 and between Order 66 and then the original trilogy.
But I think I'm going to go with my first answer because it felt like with the scope and, the design of it is more realistic to what we saw, unless there was two different ones that we didn't really notice. Anyone on YouTube, if you know the answer, leave it in the comments because we're kind of stumped, but. And then what was the second one you want me to look up?
If the droid had a name, right? I mean, you got to respect our droids.
You got to, man.
Yeah, besides old roofer droid. Yeah, good to know.
I'm about to call him Tim the Toolman Taylor at this point.
And there were no vehicles, right? No ships at all featured in this one.
No. Like very primitive, more peaceful time, like way before any wars or any of that stuff too. So
well, depending on the wars, right? We'll see what happens when they come out with the Old Republic stuff.
The High Republic, yeah.
Or High Republic, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the droid has a name. I think they never really gave it a name.
We got an unnamed droid.
Yeah.
So I guess we get to name him, right?
Mm-hmm. Kind of like the whole Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Huh? Oh, God.
All right. We will call this droid Timmy.
Yeah.
Timmy the droid.
All right. Yeah, I got like the roof and droid and the rifles. Yeah, there wasn't really much towards it. But you know what? Sometimes once in a while, I think you kind of need like a different side story where it's just like there's no like not so much action, because as we know, as fans, we've seen all the movies, we've seen all the action, and once in a while, you need nice little kind of short side stories to, get a feel of how the universe and the galaxy during this time of like the Clone Wars is going on and on. And every like little side stories pretty much that connects everything to a bigger picture in which becomes the whole timeline of Star Wars. And I know some people may, unpopular opinion, I think some people may not like it. They want more, lightsabers, they want more action, but once in a while you need to sway away from the main story, because once in a while a side story justifies itself into becoming part of the main story. It's like playing a video game pretty much. It's just pretty much like you want to complete the main story, but you also want to do side quests.
I think also
Yeah,
too, it's just with the way like with the way George Lucas released the trilogy, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, but you kind of don't know what happens in between those, and that kind of gave some people opportunities to explore, what could have happened in between each of those episodes. Like, the biggest thing in our time was the Shadows of the Empire between 5 and 6. You don't really know like what happened between, after Han getting frozen in carbonite and how Luke progressed in his Jedi ways. I mean, it kind of opens that up. And I think with the way, Disney acquired Star Wars and stuff, it kind of opens that entire thing where you're now going into the High Republic, now Tales of the Jedi, which explores the origin stories of Ahsoka and then Count Dooku, who we'll talk about next week. But it just opens up so much. And
I
yeah,
think
it's a lot to explore.
I think it's good to kind of note just for our listeners too, and you kind of touched on it a little bit there, Mike, our Star Wars journeys in a sense, because we got to realize that there are people that have viewed Star Wars in different ways. We were all, I like to say, fortunate enough that our first Star Wars was A New Hope. It wasn't, we weren't not old enough that we didn't get to see it originally in theaters, but I think it probably really got onto our radar when they did release to VHS. That was kind of when we got to see Star Wars, and for that, we saw it in that order, and then pretty much have seen everything else in the order it's come out. We really did. Some people, it's quite possible right now that there's people that their very. Star Wars could be this episode we just watched, right? This could have been their introduction to Star Wars. A young kid, and maybe they're like,
or it could be like a parent
questioning their parents a little bit if they started them off with this. But
dude,
if it was, it's a great introduction to Star Wars, because you just get this reference. Ahsoka is Jedi. Now you're like, well, what's a Jedi? Like, what? Where's it going from here?
Yeah, we should probably like pose that question in the comments or something. Like what was your beginning to the Star Wars journey? Did you watch it 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, or did you incorporate like the Clone Wars, Rebels? What was your introduction to Star Wars? Because yeah, I mean, what you nailed, Brian, was like the 20th anniversary, the re-release of Star Wars into the movie theaters. That's how we got introduced to it. And then obviously it got released on VHS, and now we're way past that point. But
yeah, dude, I don't want to interrupt you guys. I was looking up the cute little animals. First of all, two things. Eric, talk about Eric's like, is that a new creature Eric would have saved with? But also, I was looking out, and then I looked up the Reddit, and they're like, "What's the name of those animals?" And they just go trash pandas.
Oh, yeah.
Still,
I
don't
want to
name
touch
that
on
either. But
we do have a friend who different Star Wars story than us. Definitely has watched Star Wars in a different order. Came to it a little later in life, and has said recently that there's always a character in each rendition of Star Wars that he would kill for, right? So that's what I think Tom was referencing with the the little cute furry thing, the trash pandas, as I guess we'll call them, would probably be in this episode. what Eric will kill for. And Eric will probably eventually be on as a guest episode in the future, and he might also be one of the first people watching this. So I'm sure he's gonna be happy he got a shout out with that.
And
But
obviously,
and maybe there will be a segment of nobody meeting Eric and us just saying what in this episode would Eric kill for. So we'll say the Eric kill creature or character, which is really just gets gifted to the cutest or funnest character probably.
All right, just a heads up, guys. We got about 7 minutes left, so
Yeah, so we'll get the
so
record.
we're okay. I mean, I think another segment we want to do is like a hot take. I think.
All right.
Yeah.
What's your hot take on this episode?
My hot take is I love those trash pandas, man. They're so cute. You can't deny that.
no, you can't.
But also I think another one we should do besides hot takes is I think we'll also end it with what'd you take away from the episode?
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna go back to my quote, and maybe this will be what my takeaways are each episode. Or my hot take. Either way, we can call it both. Maybe it's Tom's hot take, so maybe Tom does a hot take. And I gotta always go back, just who I am and my background, which you all don't know, but a lot of respect for the writing, and writers. So I gotta say the quote, the opening, pretty much the opening words, everywhere there is life, value it and honor it. And with that, we get a quote that's also a lesson, and it's a good one. You can't really argue that. Like,
No.
be good to the life around you. And this is a great episode where, even Ahsoka's a Jedi and she's learning from her mother, and they're killing, and clearly an innocent creature gets killed, but it's for them to eat and for them to survive. And then at the same time, you have a not innocent creature, a vicious creature that instead of getting killed for their survival, Ahsoka manages to use the Force to tame it and befriend it basically. So it's just interesting that I like that little lesson that they kind of threw in there, and that little line and stuff. So that will be my takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to touch upon that too. I mean, just like for people who don't really know Tales of the Jedi, it was written by Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni was involved with the Clone Wars, Rebels, and pretty much a lot of the animated stuff and the Mandalorian. But like the fact that you kind of touch on that kind of reminds me of like how he would open up the Clone Wars with like an adage or a quote or something, just something that as a theme. And I think you did a really nice job nailing on that. I'd probably just today, like for me, is like more around like the Jedi lore and like kind of what you touched upon as well. But I mean, again, just going back to what I said earlier about Jedi being taken from their family, not really knowing this is atypical, because it kind of reminds me of like one of the episodes in the Clone Wars when the Separatists and the slavers kidnap their kind, and it's very personal for Ahsoka to be involved with the rescue mission. So again, and Ahsoka is just a very dynamic Jedi, as we're going to see, throughout this series, and her Jedi path is very atypical compared to everyone else, where it's like, you get brought to the order, you get raised up, but no, everything's just been unconventional, and just having these life lessons very ingrained to her, it really helps shape her path at such an early age. And, one of the things that, thinking about now is just like, I don't know, like maybe Dave Filoni had set it up this way, but, Plo Koon was someone who was very involved with her time. And, I don't know if that was something that he didn't have a chance to explore, but I think it would have been nice if there was a way that he got involved with the Tales of the Jedi and just have him like bring in Ahsoka, because that would help viewers understand like the dynamic the two of them had throughout it. So again, like probably my biggest takeaway is just like, like I said, just how she strayed from the linear Jedi path, which we're going to see later on, that, it's been warped, mainly due to the wars and politics and all that.
And with that, who knows what we'll get? And where this first episode's coming out before they release, or sorry, I shouldn't say coming out, but it's at least being recorded before they've released the new series Ahsoka. So maybe we'll be getting live action flashbacks of youngling Ahsoka. So maybe we do get a little more information from that one. Who knows what we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, once again, YouTube, this is our first ever episode. You know, like we said, we're not trying to compete with every other YouTube channel about Star Wars. It's just us just doing this for the love of Star Wars. That's pretty much it. If you're a lover of Star Wars, give us a chance, that's all we ask, If you're like we appreciate every comment you do, positive, negative, but at least be respectful. But yeah. And that was
Helps
my
understand
laundry
things
right
from
there.
certain
And
points of view.
that's how we're gonna end it. My laundry is done right now.
Smash that like button.
Yeah.
Share and follow. No,
Leave
we'll
a
have
comment,
to come up with some sort of nice ending that's the same. I don't know what that would be.
We'll just start off with probably just may the force be with you always, and we'll come up with something new each week.
I was gonna mix it up. I was gonna be like, because of I'm just gonna say this before we run out of time. I was gonna say because the force finds people in different ways. I want to quote like Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park. The force finds a way.
That's good. That's good.
We're one with the force, and the force is with us.
There we go.
Good one too. All right, we'll see.
All right.
See y'all next week.
Later.
See ya.